There is guiding logic behind all of what's happening that's couched in psychological concepts that the filmmakers must have had some grasp on, even if trying to put all of it into words would do disservice to it and jumble the audience's understanding of it too much to actually connect emotionally. If I said something like that Mima might be schizotypal, for instance, it's such an oversimplification, and it asks the audience to project so much of their own understanding of that term into the conversation that it's not helpful to try and diagnose the story, as it will be just to describe the logic behind what's happening. In the worst moments of emotional isolation, when I was really desperate for someone to talk to, I started talking to myself. I tried to visualize another me, a girl version of myself that could answer my questions about why I felt what I did. However, I was tormented tremendously by the thought that I cannot know anything that I don't know, meaning no matter how I try to bifurcate my personality to better treat myself, I can't create a version of me that knows a thing I didn't already know somewhere inside. Moreover, finding myself becoming the kind of person that might be talking to myself was terrifying. And I spent a considerable amount of mental energy on rationalizing why it didn't make sense for me to do it, and thus rejecting my own attempts to cope with increasingly self-generated distress. From the chaos and confusion of that year was created the foundations of who I would become for the rest of my life. And all of that culminated in seeing Neon Genesis Evangelion shortly before I turned 15 and being like, this is the truth. It is incredible to me the way that Perfect Blue and Evangelion have such similar reputations, but with so little connection to one another. Whereas shows like Serial Experiments Lain, which follow similar themes, feel like they exist because Evangelion had set a precedent for their existence, Perfect Blue was already in development before Evangelion aired. It was almost entirely created as an OVA, which was expected only to appeal to a niche market, because there was not any expectation that a realistic psychological thriller would succeed as an animation in Japan. However, by the time the film was being finished, not only was there now precedent for the success of psychological thriller animation, not only in the case of Evangelion, but also the hugely popular Ghost in the Shell film from that same year, but it also must have become apparent to the people making the film that it was just ridiculously good. After all, remember, this was Satoshi Kon's full directorial debut, after Madhouse president Masao Maruyama had taken an interest in him based on his episode direction on the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders OVA. How could anyone have predicted that he was going to turn out one of the greatest films ever made until they saw it for themselves? Satoshi Kon was truly like Hayao Miyazaki in the way that his importance to the ability of his films to be made is such that they just couldn't exist at all without him. Even though he never read the original